Hello and welcome to the season finale of Season 3 of Frame and Reference. I'm your host, King McMillan, and this week we're talking with Robert Richardson, ASC, about his work on the Ben Affleck film Air, as well as his work with Quentin Tarantino and Scorsese and all kinds of stuff. If you're new to Frame and Reference, sorry that you showed up at this season finale, but if you're a long-time listener, you'll know the break is only about 2 months, so because I have work that I do every year between December and January, and the holidays and all that stuff. So, if you are new, you've got 121 episodes of Frame and Reference you can listen to, totaling over 200 hours of fantastic conversations with cinematographers and a few directors and stuff like that. I'm really excited for next year. We'll probably get started in around February, but I've already started recording those episodes, so you can be assured they're fantastic. So yeah, that's about it. As I've always said, thank you so much for listening. 3 years of this podcast, it's pretty exciting, as this kind of just started as a side project. 4 years is a hell of a milestone. And I'm glad you guys are enjoying it. Please do share with your friends. Tweet about it, or Instagram about it, or TikTok about it, or whatever you do about it. Because the more you share, the better guests we can get, like Bob Richardson here, and the more we can do. So that's all. I know that's a bit of a long intro, kind of a season 1 length intro, but just figured, for the season finale, I'd say hello. But in any case, this is a great conversation. You're going to love it. So let's dig right into this conversation with Robert Richardson, ASC. Have you been watching anything cool recently? Anything that kind of stuck out to you?
Well, yesterday I went to Killers.
I want to see it. I live in LA, and they've got it playing, at least last I checked, like somewhere in Beverly Hills. There's like a few little spots, like a couple of Regals that are playing it.
Well, I saw that it's playing in France in so many theaters. So I was in Paris.
Oh, you mean Killers of the Flower Moon, not The Killer?
No, I haven't seen that yet. I want to see The Killers.
Gotcha.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to that. I'm also looking forward to Napoleon.
Yeah.
I saw the trailer for Napoleon. I was like, oh my God, Joaquin. And Ridley. I mean, Ridley he has just been hitting it.
Yeah.
Age is not a problem for Ridley Scott. But yeah, as a Killers, I also saw Oppenheimer a while ago. El Conde.
Yeah. Lockman.
Yeah. Great work on his part.
Yeah.
And an incredible film. I saw The Beast, which was so disturbing the first 5-10 minutes. I'm thinking, like, what are we doing here? I was like, it was an amazing film. I don't know. I saw is it Deepest Breath?
That one I don't know.
Yeah, well, it's a wonderful story about deep diving, free breath, and Asteroid City.
I just spoke to Bob Yeoman a couple days ago about that.
It's so strongly told visually. That it's a remarkable film, and I thought, maybe this is going to feel sterile, and it didn't feel sterile to me at all. The performance is extraordinarily strong.
Yeah.
How do you feel about Killers of the Flower Moon? You know
what? I was supposed to see it the other day, and then I ended up getting a job filming at the Magic Castle, so I took that. It was fun.
Yeah, I would take that job probably too instead of a movie. It's just better for you.
Yeah, it's something that I actually think about a lot, because I've been there a few times filming in it, and the theatricality and the suspension of disbelief that happens at a place like the Magic Castle is definitely refreshing, because most people don't go to theater, whereas Magic Castle is lived in theater in many ways.
Yeah, I haven't been. I've been to Magic Castle, but not in any time recent. Many years ago.
Well, if you need an invite, you let me know. I've got them stacked.
Okay, I'll do that.
Got a lot of friends there. When you see something like Oppenheimer or Asteroid City that's so visually not unique in a way, but at least unique in the releases that are out now, does that kind of spur anything in you? Like when you watch those, do you get excited about film in the same way that someone like me would, who, you know, I shoot plenty of stuff, but nothing that, like, I can't touch that at this moment. Whereas you're in a position where you can get there. You can be like, oh, I should have done that, or ooh, that's an interesting. Do you learn from watching those things?
I do learn. Right? It learn in a different way. Oppenheimer had no reason for me to be able to watch that movie when I think about what the subject matter was, and for Nolan to so capture that story in such a resonant way, and including the use of sound was incredible. Sound, you know, I was in France seeing it, and I could barely hear the words sometimes because the track was lifting me, moving me, and I felt that had a lot to do with, but also Nolan's mind is brilliant, so he's feeding you visual imagery, and you feel sometimes you're inside the brain. That type of thing is always highly instructive. When it comes to a brilliant director, that it's fresh, and there's fresh material on there. I try not to look at how a film is shot.
Yeah.
I try to stay out of that. I did that with Asteroid City. It's a little more complex not to think about it, because they're generally set pieces and the moves are very precise, and you're almost looking at set pieces or theater every time. So it's a little more difficult not to think about the visuals, because it doesn't seamlessly enter into a story. It is part of it, but you have to run parallel with both of them. I didn't find that true with Oppenheimer. Same thing with El Conde. I didn't think about that. Sometimes I forgot I was Ed. It's like, who shot this movie?
Yeah.
This brilliant work, and I'm watching story. I start with story, and then if I like it, I come back to it and I'll watch it again, and then start to study it without the sound. Just watch the visual structure and see if it still tells me the same thing that I got on my first impression.
Yeah. Well, and I imagine too, like, after you've done it at such a high level, as you've said in other interviews, that like maybe correct me if I'm wrong, maybe analyzing too much will take you away from what you naturally do and what you the instincts that you've learned to trust. You know, kind of micromanaging your own process maybe makes it too obvious, and then you start thinking too much about it instead of doing what you do naturally.
No, I think that could be partially true, but every film I watch, and I watch as much as I possibly can watching films. A lot of them I go backwards in time quite often.
Yeah. You know,
recently I saw Rules of the Game again, and then I should, okay, well, it's Rules of the Game. Let's go to the river. And I checked out the river that he did. You know, and I move in time. I'm not stuck on. My daughter wrote me and said, "Do you have any interesting movies I could watch? Do I have any ideas to watch?" My daughter is 18.
Send her a link to your IMDb.
And she said, "No, I didn't mean my movies."
No, I know.
She goes, and I said, "Where would you like to start?" She goes, "Just not with Citizen Kane." I was like, all right, well, that's got a point of view. But she's not saying just give me fresh movies.
Right.
I said, the one you should start with City of God. Start with something that's going to be fresh for you.
Yeah.
And I gave her a list everywhere to Battle Algiers. I mean, all the way through 400 Blows, Samurai. It's like et cetera, Rashomon. You know, it's like a Tokyo Story. You know, but I also gave a lot of current movies that I thought were quite good. You know, and she wrote back. She said, "We watched City of God." Oh, dude. And she goes, "Bro." I'm like, okay, right. Glad you got you on that one. Can you give me a Western? And if you want a Western that's violent, or you want a Western that's good? I mean, what kind of Western do you want to watch? You want to go back in time? You want to watch Anything Man? Would you rather slip to something else a little bit more? Not that way. If you want a good heartfelt story, I'm going to say Kevin Costner.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah. Well,
brilliant movie, and it'll move you, and you won't think it will, and then you'll find it. Fuck me if you're not in that zone.
Yeah.
And that movie, is telling somewhat of a similar story, way before, but Killers of the Flower Moon, the decimation of the native culture.
Yeah.
And I just watched, when was it, with Nick Cage, Buffalo Killer, something brand new. And it's like, he's a Buffalo Hunter, I think it's called. It's a brutal story of killing and massacring,
It's Nick Cage is doing really well recently. All of his films have been great.
They've been great, and
Pig is outstanding.
Pig is like, if you had said that, I would have mentioned that one there, because that's a film you go, all right, so this person studied under Jodorowsky. Clearly, they must have. El Topo. Anyway, it feels so out there and fresh, and Pig was loved it.
What was I going to say about something about Pig? You said it twice, and then I was like, wait, nope, gone. So we'll just move on. One thing you'll soon learn about this podcast, even though we're on a truncated timeline, is I've got a bunch of notes here, but they are just as scattered as my thoughts. So we just get to them as we get to them. I was going to say a movie I recently saw that I know you maybe don't have an attachment to the specific film, but I saw The Conformist again the other day because I have it on Blu-ray, and I was like, that's a film that I think if you were to show, because nowadays, like, film students, The Matrix is vintage to them. But The Conformist is so fresh to, what was that, 1963, 9, something like that, and it looks just as modern as anything else.
No, Storaro did brilliant work on that, and Bertolucci, high level at that time. And I that's the one film to any cinematographer I talk to who wants to know what they should be watching. Where's it? So start with Conformist.
Yeah.
It's incredible in its movement of color and the themes. And Storaro at that time was utilizing the movement of light. That one scene when he's with his fiancée, and lights moving up and down, and it's really beautiful. I mean, Storaro is a master, obviously, extraordinary proportions.
Yeah,
I loved it. I think
Bertolucci
went on. To nail so many others with Storaro. I wish something hadn't come between them.
Yeah, it kind of brings up a thought that I had, which was, like I said earlier, like you've said in other interviews that, when you are at such a high level, you have to perform, and I was wondering what that meant for you. Cause obviously, we, after X amount of experience, we all kind of learn how to light in the way that we like, and we all, learn not to get in arguments with people. But, what does working at a high level mean to you when you're working with, your Tarantinos and your Scorseses and even Affleck, who I think is I don't think the Affleck's made a bad movie, but we can get to that in a bit.
No, I think you're absolutely right. I think that Ben is that way. I think Air is a tremendous movie, but you can go back to The Town.
Yeah.
Argo, he's a remarkable director. And Air for me was this short breath of fresh air. He did phenomenal and well with it, and it's an ensemble piece. I do think it deserves. It's one of my favorite films this year in terms of a film, and that's just being objective. I've seen it a number of times, and I don't really have. I'm not thinking about it in terms of my work. I'm thinking strictly about the ensemble cast and the direction and the writing, and the music score.
Yeah,
music score, and you just feel that it was made so rapidly, like it's a rough draft. But a brilliant rough draft. It's like Neil Young delivering one song that's just never going to go to full production, and it's just brilliant. And I think that working with in that way, with working with whether it's Quentin or I see words, see story. So I don't try to stay in the same genre of filmmaking. I try to shift my visuals to match a story, not not to talk about myself.
Yeah.
Not to talk about my skills. My skills can do what they can do, and I'm frightened when I start every film. Some people think, you're not going to. Every time I start a film, I feel like I have to go back and look at my notes from a previous journal. Now I don't keep journals because it's all digital, but I used to take Polaroids.
Sure.
Yeah. And Polaroids gone out, which is a sad thing. I mean, you can do Polaroids, but not at the quality we could do them.
Yeah, you got the Fuji ones. I'll tell you what, I still take written notes, but this guy, the old Fujifilm X100, the little pocketable guy,
yeah,
throw that thing on 9x6 or 16x9, and great images out of there.
So I should take a look at that, because for me, it's when we work in digital, I have and Ben had a little bit of a problem with this. I said, I'd like to get you a 65-inch monitor. And I want to get a 65-inch monitor. It'll be the same one as I have. I think it was 65. And it'll be the same one that's going to be in the grading room, because we had a grader on set.
Was it the LG?
Yeah. Exactly. And with the LG, and then I said, I want to go 4K. And he was like, 4K? Why? And because really you think, like, why would I go 4K? I don't need that.
Yeah.
And then he started to see it in 4K, and people don't want to go 4K because they're going to buy other equipment to get it to go 4K. So there's a reticence among crew members that have to spend more money to achieve it. But folks, these films are being released in 4K. Let's look at it. Why do we want to look at something that's in a diminished quality? 2K and 4K, when you look at it, you would hear Ben, the shot was over. Jimmy, did you miss that moment? I feel like you were soft on the eyes. And that's, and Jimmy Ward is fantastic focus puller. And Jimmy would go, no, I don't think so. He said, oh, come on over here a minute, would you? And they'd look at you, oh yeah, maybe it's a little soft there, but yes. So, but it is a benefit, and it does give you a greater sense of what you're going to get. Because I would go to the grading room, since it was shot in one place, and you asked that question. We had a grading room in the facility. All it was a small room. We got the monitor. Elodie was working on his life.
You mean in the office that you shot in?
Yeah, a spare office. And right next door was Billy, who was cutting. So one room, and the behind where the film would come in, get processed, handed to her. She'd start to grade. I'd slip out between, if I had 10 minutes, 5 minutes, look at something, say, that's it. Try to go that way. Look at this, put a window here, do this. I mean, we're doing basically a DI, right? On every shot as much as possible. And we're refining the lookup table, because we started with a certain lookup table. It wasn't working. None of us were really happy. And we had very little time for prep. So then we're starting to shape it and sharpen it. And within a couple days of shooting, and maybe a week or 4 days prior to that, we were able to get it into a place that was better. And then we just kept working on it.
Yeah.
And
it's as my friend Michael Cioni said about Frameio, the camera to cloud, but applies here, is you're turning what used to be a linear process parallel, where you're able to grade as you shoot, you're able to edit as you shoot, and maybe tighten up the schedule a little bit.
Well, that's exactly what Ben wanted to do, and he was editing every day.
Yeah.
And they would be getting upset. I don't have all the footage. We said, but did you finish the other scene?
Yeah.
We finished everything. We come on.
Yeah.
Like, this one scene's causing me a little more problem. I can't. It's like, and it would be that. And so I said, we still have another day. Viola, we still haven't got the side of Viola. We got to wait, Ben. Hang back. They were great. But the nice thing is he could walk into the room with Elodie and say, Elodie, can you do this? Can you change that? Or Billy could do that and say, Ben was mentioning like a little lower, a little darker, a little brighter, a little this, a little more contrast, a little less, and she would alter the scene for that. It was a tremendous benefit to everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen before that your not a Luddite, as it were, interchangeably using film, digital, whatever. And obviously the DI has made it so that you don't necessarily need to flag off what you see. It's like, well, I know I can take that down. But I did see in a separate interview that Quentin will not let you use the DI.
That's a true story.
What's how do you on a movie like Air, shot it in 23 days, assume the windows are helping you out a little bit, the DI windows. How is it working in a situation where you're not allowed to lean on post as much as maybe you'd like?
I go back, and I just go back and I do it. And I have that conversation every once in a while in each film. I go, Quinn, if I don't have to cut that wall because it's too bright, and sometimes you just know you're not gonna, and he's not going to let me. I've already told the guy to start cutting it.
Right.
That could save us 45 minutes if I can just change it.
Yeah.
No, Bob, I want the original. Hateful was the worst.
Really?
I mean,
all snow.
No, not just that, but it was all chemical to chemical.
Oh,
it was
sure.
chemical and then printing. There was no DI for release. You know, every once in a while I'll cheat, and I'm not. This is no secret to Quentin.
Right.
He'll close his eyes periodically that he didn't see it, but he'll let me know the next time he sees me that he did notice that something was slightly different than the dailies. So,
but that never happens. We don't need to talk about that.
Sometimes you just a slight vignette.
Right. Well, I used to kind of I feel like, especially nowadays, that film is coming back as like a popular medium, photographically, not even just for film. I feel like for movies, people kind of get very, I don't know if nostalgic's the right word, but they'll get real sticky about like, oh no, this is the untouched negative. It's like Bresson tweaked his negatives, Ansel Adams tweaked his negatives. Like, it's not, when you go to the print, it's still touched. It's not just this magic, you click a button. That's more like digital, actually, if you just take the picture and it's done,
No, you're absolutely right. When you look at still photographers, of course they're dodging.
Yeah.
They're in all different ways. And we pretend that films didn't do this. Well, still photography did it forever. And, we get stuck with YCM or RGB, and it's like 2 points here, a point there. You can barely, now you can sometimes fight for a quarter or half, but essentially you're not getting anywhere. You can push and pull. But in the long run, everything goes digital.
Yeah. Yeah.
So no matter what you're doing, you're going digital. It's going to be released digitally in more theaters than you're going to see that one chemical. I don't know how many chemical prints. Well, obviously he did a DI. I mean, he had different formats. He had to have a DI to put Oppenheimer up.
Yeah.
So it was played with from the very beginning. You just see like the texture and the look of the film, which I do as well. But I'm not an advocate only of.
Yeah. Well, and I was actually able to see, I have a little story for you at the end of this I think you'll like, but I was able to see Oppenheimer in the 70 IMAX at Universal, which I guess is like that's where he QC'd it. So I got to see that, and I got to see the regular,
35.
30. Well, just the digital one. Like, we saw the digital one, and then I saw the IMAX one. And I will say it was really shocking how much cleaner IMAX acquisition was than the 70 millimeter acquisition. Like when it flipped over to the first IMAX scene, I was like, oh God, suddenly it felt like, digital, like Alexa 65 or something like that,
Well, that makes sense. I saw it in a 70 millimeter. I didn't see it I saw it in 70. I could tell when they shifted different places, but I wasn't paying a lot of attention to it.
Yeah. Well, the IMAX was
yeah. See, I didn't have that. That would have been fantastic to have gone through, because I've always had this concept that you should be able to flip between formats.
I did have that note talking about, all right, so we'll just go there then. Because it is kind of a funny idea that no one, when you're talking, kind of talking about the reticence of moving to digital or using digital tools, but the idea of changing formats, even within a film, we'll go black and white, we'll go hand tinted, we'll go 1:3:3, we'll go 1:8:5, all in one film. That idea, it seems to be relatively fresh, but I've heard you talk about it over the years.
Yeah, I mean, for some time, and I've done it a couple times. Well, obviously, huge amount in Natural Born Killers and U-Turn. But
right
on JFK, we made the shift from basically 1:3:3 for marching to 1:8:5 to 2:4:0 with Washington for JFK, and did a little bit of that with Horse Whisperer. We started smaller and enlarged on the trip to Montana, but that's nothing. I mean, I think that we should be able to do so much more with this, because people, I sit there and I watch the news, and I'm watching all this material from the war right now, and it's all this.
Right.
So somebody is defined for us. The social world is defined for us how we look at things.
Right.
Wait a minute. We not notice that when you turn it sideways, you're actually getting more than news in there?
Right. Context? What's that?
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't just one person here. I get to see as much of what's taking place around you, and you're swinging your camera from here to there, which that would probably be in your shot if you had it over here.
Right.
It's frustrating. It's like, why don't it? And also, if you're shooting with all of our new cameras, let's just pull that social out of the wider, because you got enough information in there for people watching on their phones and YouTube.
Yeah, that's, man, in the sort of lower tier environment that I work in, I cannot stand when the client goes, all right, so we're just going to film this normally, and also can you frame for vertical as well? And I'm like, so you mean just frame for vertical? Because there's no, like, we're just going to crop out of the widescreen. It's like, if you want it to look good vertically, every composition is going to be like that. Where you get, so it's stupid. Incredibly frustrating.
I know, just not a commercial up in Toronto, but we shot it vertical, all the social.
See, that's fine. I figured just mount like a smaller, even a phone, like just mount a smaller camera onto the normal camera.
Well, if they're doing every shot, in this particular case, they weren't doing every shot. They were doing specific shots. So they're being designed by Chris to be a shot that looks like it's coming from the film. And so we had a head that flipped in, so you went upside down. I mean, vertical with it. Yeah. And they punched in on the anamorphic lensing. Oh, yeah. To get to the 16:9 or 9:16.
I did want to ask, this is just completely jumping topics. I did want, going back to the idea of... but
before you go there.
Yeah.
Remember the film that was, and I'm blanking on the title. It was, took place, very crazy film, American, but with Central Chinese character, I think. Really weird last year.
Everything Everywhere.
Yeah. There was that section where they started popping very, very fast.
Yeah.
That's everything that I want to do in a whole movie. I'm sitting in the second row, and this is coming up, and I'm going, and I can see it happening in front of me. My head's up. It's all over. It's like, motherfucker, yeah. That's the idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, come on. It's like, let's do it,
What's funny is I got to interview Larkin Seipel, the DP of that movie, and I had been invited to what I thought was a press screening, but was just like the PR people like me, I guess. So they're like, "Do you just want to come to this?" And it was at the IMAX theater. It was like, I think it's the only place it's ever been shown in IMAX over at Universal. So we watched the movie. It hadn't come out yet, so we do this interview, and he and I are like, he's just like on his phone chilling, and we're having a great chat. And I think at one point we're like, yeah, hope it does well. But then I wasn't able to release it for a while. So the movie like destroys, right? It's getting all kinds of awards. And then my podcast comes out where I have to be like, okay, we recorded this in April.
Yes,
We're not ignorant today. We were then.
that's so true. I can see that one happening.
It was good. He's a great guy. But I did want to ask.
Blonde was a beautifully shot movie.
Which one?
Blonde.
Oh, yeah.
That didn't get enough of what it should have gotten.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough watch, you know.
It's a tough watch, but it's a very good film. I think that underrated and a comeback.
Yeah. What was I going to say? Oh, the jumping back over to Air. You know, I mentioned the 23-day schedule. How obviously shooting digital probably helps because you're able to on that 65-inch monitor to see what you're shooting. But what are some things that helped you be that mobile and work quickly? You know, obviously, you know, it's such a naturally shot film, and you know, in my dumb head, you could just be like, yeah, we put a bunch of lights outside and just shot it.
Yeah, well, the reason is that I had the A crew. Ben, the whole idea of the new model was let's just get the best, and the best came with my group had, you know, Ian Kincaid, Chris Centrella, Jimmy Ward, Colin. It's like these guys are like literally the best in their fields, in my opinion, and because they were treated with a level of respect from Ben from the very beginning, like salaries and such. I said to Ian, you know, like, you okay? He said, yeah, I'm getting more than my rate. You know, and rates have always stayed sort of in the same place, and so they were all positive. And you know, as you know, crews care about food. The food was very good.
Yeah.
And once you keep a crew there, they were in the game. They didn't leave. Ben didn't leave. It was like a team that was in the Michael Jordan zone. You know, when he's popping his tongue on the long side and threes are dropping like raindrops, it's like, motherfucker, you go. And that crew was there and always ahead, on to the next setup. We knew where we're going. And I think that's the one reason we could really, well, it's one reason we could fly. You know, we could fly at a very rapid pace. And Ben could shift his point of view. And Ben also had the monitor and could say, well, can I really see there? I want to see more. And he was extraordinarily specific. So, and it wasn't something we would have to deal with later. So that's how we did it.
Yeah. Was your lighting package very, you know, specific or large or small, minimal?
You know, the primary lighting package was LEDs.
Yeah.
They're rapid to move with in the first place. And a lot of the LEDs were up top, and at nighttime we shifted. But there was some work through windows, not a great deal. And when it did, I tried to work as natural as possible. And Ben was working at a speed that allowed me to work as natural as possible, which is extremely helpful. I mean, if you happen to be sitting with a dialogue sequence, and some of these were long dialogue sequences, you certainly couldn't get into that. But I tried to keep the set cool so actors wouldn't. Normally, I'd be working with, normally on any film, it would have been tungsten units.
Right.
Now we're able to work off of the floor. In some cases, no generator at all, or one generator for the whole plant. It helped. So that was a reason what, as well as it did. And
yeah, I know you've talked about the importance of meters before, but one of my favorite purchases I ever made was getting that Sekonic color meter, just so I can, you know, get the XY coordinates from like light coming through the window and just plop up. Like I have the Kino Flow LED panels, and they match exactly. And they have camera LUTs in the lights. Have you seen that?
No.
The Kino Flows, you can tell it what camera you're shooting on, and it won't project a color that is outside the gamut of whatever camera.
That's amazing. Do they make software updates?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah. If you call Kino, I'm sure they'll speed up I think the last update was like 2 years ago. But they do have, firmware updates and everything. I'm a big Kino fan. They don't pay me. I just like their stuff. But what, you know, obviously we had mentioned you worked with some of the best. What, Affleck's kind of a newer, relatively speaking, to, you know, your Scorsese's or whoever. What kind of sensibilities does Ben bring to, you know, directing, and how does that help you as a DP Did that shorthand develop quickly? Is his inherent style something that kind of matches with yours, or did you have to have a lot of conversations about that?
No, we match pretty much. The times we don't match is his operating. Mm. I mean that a little bit as a joke. He carries his own camera. He had a Red initially.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, he would just. We had 2 cameras working most every shot, but they would be working primarily in the same axis. Ben would try to slip in between us sometime, but you're out on the basketball court. There's a little bit of defensive play here, making sure that he can't get in there because this is going to be a handheld with a Red. And so he would take these sort of the oddest angles possible and would go, ooh, maybe that wasn't such a good idea, that defensive move. He'd be shooting with the light. Oh, boy. Oh, yeah. No.
He probably stole that from Fincher. He just snuck into his bedroom and was like, that's going to be mine. Thank you.
No, but then he bought the Alexa.
Oh, he bought one?
Yeah.
Wow. Like a LF?
No, he bought the 35.
Oh, gee. Well, how's working with that? Oh, did you shoot on a 35 for air?
Yeah.
Oh, all right. You're the first person I've met. Well, no, maybe one other person. The first person I've met who actually has shot with that. What is your experience like using that versus the traditional RE Mini?
It's my go-to camera.
Yeah.
I shot with it. We were in the prototype stage. Alexa was in the prototype stage. So we went to look at it and viewed it. At that time, Chiba was shooting with Bruno, with Alejandro. So they had some experience in the DIT I knew very well, had done a lot of testing with it. And we all talked a little bit, different people, different times, not all together. And I learned some things and I did tests with it. And Ben and I decided this is it. Because when air came, it came so fast. I couldn't put an anamorphic package together. There wasn't any vacuum. Everything was gone.
Because you normally go with Panavision, right?
Yeah, I go with Panavision for lensing and Arri primarily for cameras, but unless it's film shoot, then it's Panavision all the way.
Right.
And with Dan Sasaki, I have a very strong relationship with everybody there, Jim, et cetera. But I was like, Ben, this is going to be an opportunity because we're going to be able to use prime lenses that nobody is using because they don't want them. Right. You could go out and buy these lenses right now. You can get the old super speeds on eBay, and they're going to cover. It's like, I'll go back to those, the super speeds, nice super speeds. Yeah, please give them to me.
Yeah.
So that really then becomes camera assistants who don't want to work with it because the gearing doesn't work.
Right.
And so it's things like that are a little disturbing. But overall, yeah, it was a great experience with the camera. And I went right from there to Equalizer the week after and did Equalizer on it.
That's a fun film. That's a really good one.
I loved Equalizer.
Yeah.
I was unsure. Oh no, I don't know Antoine. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that was when I was able to sneak away, and luckily I live very close to a theater, so whenever I do get a chance, and I was like, go see Denzel.
Because how do you feel with Denzel?
Yeah.
Most amazing actor. Just he's such a pleasure, and he's a force of nature.
Yeah.
Force of nature.
You mentioned operating. I saw in a behind the scenes clip you had was it like a wireless head on a pedestal or a tripod or something that you were able to operate with, or what was that thing?
Yeah, that's a remote. It was a remote head. God, I wish I know the name so well. The Matrix, and it's just I use a pan. I believe in panning. I will use joysticks. I don't do the wheels well, so I stay off of wheels. But I've had these pan bars constantly made because for me, it keeps me very much in tune with the way I would normally operate. So you can have a monitor. So if you have to do a 360, you can walk around.
Right.
Just like you would have to do it if you're in any situation. And you can pick your speed up and slow it down. But I find that the pan bar is my best way of operating with it. And the headsets allows me, and we've been working a substantial amount, like with Equalizer and Emancipation, same system, but a lot with like 50-footer, techno or whatever it might be with the head on it. And you work with a crew so you can create long tracking shots. If you do it properly, you can extend 50 feet one way, slide it back, come over, and then keep tracking out. You then suddenly have 100 feet of track over uneven terrain, which on Equalizer was absolutely a demand that had to be met. Landscape is not going to be a flat street for you. And you can't, and drone work can't work on dirt. So if you're trying to utilize a drone, not going to function.
Yeah.
City can often do it as well. It's too rough a terrain.
Right. So is the Roadhead just like a Trinity head, or is it just regular?
Basically, it's a company that bought. It's like the Space Cam used to be, but it's not the Space Cam anymore. It's a Matrix. I think it's the highest level of head so far developed by far. You might want to look up and see if I have the exact name correctly, but
I'll put it in the show notes if it's a different one. I know we're a little tight on time, so I want to be cognizant of that. But there's so many. I might have to have you back when you got a little more time, because I got a whole bunch of, like, I want to talk about Telluride. I run ski trips every year. I love Telluride. I was gonna be like, have you been to Brown Dog Pizza? But going back to all the directors you worked with, is there something that kind of unites them in their work that makes them the best at what they do, and maybe is there something that each one of them bring to the table that's different that makes them unique to the work that you guys do?
Well, you probably heard this before from me, but I started with Oliver.
Right.
He's a writer. The majority of the people I work with have very strong scripts, and Oliver's a word man. Quinn's a word man. Marty is a word man as well. As you can see in the last, he was credited. He's very strong in his script. He won't begin to visualize it until he has it in the place that he likes in terms of the writing. John Sayles was the same for me. So a lot of these people come from the word first, from the story, and that unites them. And as far as I'm concerned, and that is how I approach anything I do visually, is to read the story. Don't think about the story in a visual way. Stay off it. Just don't. I know we often go, oh, I know why. Stay away from it. Yeah. I'll read it 2-3 times, and then put your mind to it and start to think what comes to your mind. But find out what the director wants first. The director's been sitting with it for, like with Quentin, he may have been sitting with parts of the script for 4 years.
Right.
Or 2 years. He sees something. So do you want to try to intrude upon his 4 years of wisdom?
Right.
For 3 weeks or 2 weeks? I went into, I think it was the Patriot games, and I was asked, so how would you like to shoot it? And I remember saying, I have no clue. I wouldn't tell you how to shoot it. I can tell you, I love the story, I love this part, but what are you thinking? What's on your head? I want to work from where you stem, and not, I don't want to be the bulldozer coming through your particular concepts. If you ask me to do that, then I'll take that time and do that. It doesn't mean I don't have thoughts on what I feel it should feel like, but I don't want to move in any direction that is opposed to what you have already placed within your head as something you want. I can try to enlarge it or just maximize the vision you have.
Yeah. Well, that is kind of fun. You hear that from every DP when you're in film school. You'll hear it, like, oh, focus on the director and stuff. But then this happened to me, maybe not every young DP, but at least me and my friends, we were all like, oh, we're going to be, we're going to be the next so-and-so, and that's going to be our voice and our vision. And then you get to the real world and you're like, oh, no, it's really just, I'm a translator. I'm a translator and a plumber.
Well, to a certain extent, we are translators, and in some it works to the benefit. if you look at 1900 and you compare the work that Storaro did in 1900 to what he did on Conformist, one, you can see both of their minds working at one level. And the same thing happened with Last Emperor. You can see these two people. And by that point, you could feel them also starting to clash. I remember reading an interview somewhere which said, I create every move. Okay. He does the lighting. That's what. And I don't know if Storaro operates. I don't think he does operate as much as other DPs operate, like Roger and Chibo, but that to me that's telling.
Yeah. Well, wasn't lighting cameraman? Didn't that used to be a credit?
Well, there certainly is. I mean, there are sometimes you'll see a cinematographer being listed, but then you'll list lighting by, and somebody else is doing the lighting for the cinematographer, and, or more involved with the cinematographer. Then they're all vital, obviously. But I love lighting. It's like that. Marty was the first time that I'd gone into a show where I sort of expected what I'd gone through more or less with Oliver, which to give ideas, and if they were thrown out, they get thrown out. And I tried to do that with Marty, and I almost got thrown out.
Oh yeah, because he's very specific about what he's getting, huh?
He wasn't angry. I put some notes together, and I asked people if I should send him to him, and there were like 14 pages of notes and about shots and things, and were on my mind. And they had told me, yeah, he'll be up to that. Oh shit! He did not even look at my notes.
Narrator. He was not into that. Yeah.
No, nor is Quentin. I mean, if they want some help, they're going to ask you. Marty will say, "Oh well, we can't do that in here. We're in the Riviera. I can't get that high." And because I know I developed this for studio. Concept's good. It's like I don't know. Have you seen New York recently?
Not recently, no. Do I have that? Might have it on Blu-ray. I got all the Criterions over here.
So brilliant. It's just so brilliant. And you can see it's a studio movie.
Yeah. That's
how his vision would have worked. I don't think he's that happy with the movie for whatever reason, but brilliantly shot. I think it was Laszlo. But remarkable.
Yeah. I did want to ask because there's, obviously people think of Marty and specifically him as being kind of this, people think of Marty as being like, speaking of Criterion, I've got all of his like foreign film box sets, and all that. Is there anyone that you see kind of up and coming that it seems to be cut from the same cloth of seeing cinema as something as, suppose, important and relevant as Scorsese sees it?
No, unless you consider Paul Thomas Anderson somebody who's up and coming.
Sure, he's younger.
I think Paul is that in our generation of people, not my generation, but he's definitely one of the most brilliant directors at this time. There are a number of other people I've seen, but not enough to be able to say, I can't go, oh, well, there's a new Costa-Gavras. Do I know many cinematographers or even directors that are current? How'd you like Z? What? No, I mean, I'm talking to like.
Oh, sure, yeah. I was like, I saw that.
Yeah, it's like, what's Z? Did you see Battle of Algiers by Ponte Cuervo? Who's that?
Right.
That to me is disappointing because the argument is always the same for us. Have you read Moby Dick? Right. Yeah, of course. So cinema is not an art to you. It's just a cape. Is that how we start now today?
Right.
In this country, I mean, in the United States of America, that seems to be a touch more where it goes. than it does here in France. When I look at France, it's amazing how many films they're doing, and they're not about this subject matter at all. They're extraordinarily personal films, and so many get made here. But and tremendous number of theaters too. I just don't know all the directors here, so hard to say.
Yeah,
I mean, Alejandro, clearly that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and it's also too, I think we got to wait for some people's body of work to get fleshed out. There's a lot more people making movies. There's only so many that can come out. But before you go, I did want to share a fun story with you that very quick, which is you inadvertently had a hand in probably the best movie-going experience I ever had. And that was for the roadshow of Hateful Eight. I went to the theater near me, which was a Landmark, which unfortunately is closed now. And I was just by myself, and it was the whole roadshow thing. And I sit down next to these two older women, and at the halftime, what do you call it? At the halftime, at the intermission, the interlude, we were talking, and I had just gotten back into being at film and trying to get work again, and I'm talking to these ladies, and I'm like, hey, they're like, what have you seen? I was like, I haven't really watched a lot. I just saw that new Star Wars. And one of the ladies goes, oh, she worked on Star Wars. And I was like, oh, really? Like, what did you? She goes, no, the old one. And I was like, what? And she goes, yeah, I was a PA. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. And then I look her up, and she was a PA, and then she was a production manager on the next two, on Empire and Jedi. And I'm telling you, these women were so invested in Hateful Eight. In like every gunshot was, oh. And it made me so happy. Like, I was like, that's film there. That's still going to the theater after you worked on Star Wars and being still so invested in what's happening on screen. And it made me very happy and made me know I was doing the right thing.
Marshall McLuhan years ago talked about how television was going to become our home theater. That your movie, the experience of being with people in movies is no longer going to exist far in the future. And not far off. He was right, but I think I have gone to, when I went to Oppenheimer in Paris, it was a sold out show, and a giant, and it was in 70, and it was sold out and you think that experience is because I'm watching with so many people too. And I went to Flowers, and it was a beautiful private viewing experience, more or less. Seats that went back, came up, and there's only 4 in one row, 4 in the other, and 4 in the other, or 6, and 6, whatever it was. But there are only 4 people in the movie. Yet I still loved it. I hung in there, and I loved it because I'm looking at a 40-foot screen.
Right.
I'd prefer to be looking at a larger screen with more people to see, because I became more critical of the film than I probably would have if I were experiencing the energy of others.
Yeah. Well, it's like going to a concert. You don't want to go to a concert with 10 people. You want to go to a concert with 200 people. The shared energy.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, why would you want to sit there and be the 10 people that are looking out and thinking there's 10,000? But if you were to give me a private show at one point with my morning jacket, I would have done that.
Sure. Yes.
With 10 people.
Yeah.
In a row. You put me at KCRW, okay, I'll sit there and watch them in the living room.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll go with Wilco and listen to the new album with 10 people. Feel free. Play.
We the Tiny Desk thing. We went and saw Royal Blood last night. I'm getting the light, as we say in comedy. So I got to let you go. But thanks so much for spending the time with me, man. That was a great conversation, and I'd love to have you back as soon as you're able.
I'd love to do it.
Frame and Reference is an Owlbot production. It's produced and edited by me, Kenny McMillan, and distributed by ProVideo Coalition. As this is an independently funded podcast, we rely on support from listeners like you. So if you'd like to help, you can go to buymeacoffee.com/frameandrefpod. We really appreciate your support, and as always, thanks for listening.